It was a freezing morning when Daniel tightened the worn laces on his work boots, his breath forming clouds in the air as he kissed his little girl. "Ma, goodbye." She was only 6, her messy hair tied up in pigtails, and though she didn't complain, Daniel knew she noticed the way he sometimes skipped breakfast so she could have a full plate. Life as a single dad hadn't been kind. Since his wife passed 3 years ago, every day had been a battle: late rent notices, unexpected bills, and long nights of wondering how much longer he could keep their tiny apartment. But Daniel refused to let Emma see his despair. He told her bedtime stories about heroes, about how the toughest storms make the strongest sailors. Deep down, though, he wasn't sure he believed his own words anymore. That morning, his phone buzzed with a number he didn't recognize. It was Mrs. Whitmore, an elderly woman who lived across town, asking if he could come fix a broken door hinge. It sounded simply barely a few hours of work, but Daniel jumped at the chance. Every dollar mattered. When he arrived, he found a quiet house with peeling paint and a tired garden, the kind of place that carried both charm and sadness. Mrs. Whitmore greeted him with a warm smile, though her eyes looked heavy with loneliness. She reminded him of his own mother before she passed, a gentle, kind, but clearly carrying the weight of years. As Daniel worked on the hinge, Mrs. Whitmore stayed nearby, talking. She asked about Emma, about his work, and he found himself opening up more than he intended. Maybe it was the way she listened. Maybe it was the fact that no one had really asked him how he was in a long time. He admitted the struggle: late nights, side jobs, the fear of not being enough for his daughter. His voice cracked when he mentioned how Emma sometimes asked if Mommy could see her from heaven. He hadn't meant to get so personal, but once the words poured out, he couldn't stop. Mrs. Whitmore simply nodded, her eyes glistening with something he couldn't quite read. When the job was done, Daniel tried to refuse extra payment as she'd already offered more than the hinge repair was worth. But she insisted, pressing the bills into his calloused hands. Before he left, she asked if he might come back the next week to fix a few more things. She explained she didn't get visitors often and could use the help. Something in her voice made Daniel agree, even though his schedule was already overflowing. Over the next weeks, Daniel became a regular at her house. He repaired squeaky floorboards, patched up a leaky faucet, and helped carry groceries. Emma even joined him a few times, quickly taking to Mrs. Whitmore, who baked her cookies and taught her how to fold paper cranes. The three of them began to form a quiet bond, unexpected, but comforting. Still, Daniel's struggles didn't ease. His landlord had given him a final warning: pay up or face eviction. He lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, calculating numbers that never added up. Pride had kept him from asking for help, but his situation grew desperate. He debated whether to confide in Mrs. Whitmore, but always held back. He didn't want to burden her. One evening, after another repair, Mrs. Whitmore asked him to sit with her for tea. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed an old envelope on the table between them. "Daniel," she said softly, "I've been watching how you care for Emma, how you never complain, how you give everything you have, even when you have almost nothing left. You remind me of someone I once knew, my late son. He was hardworking like you, but life didn't give him much of a chance before it was taken away, and I can't help but feel I was given another chance to do what I couldn't do for him." Confused, Daniel opened the envelope. Inside was a check, more than he had ever seen in his life, enough to pay off the debt, secure a better home, and finally breathe. His chest tightened, his throat burned. He shook his head, refusing at first, but Mrs. Whitmore reached across the table, her frail hand covering his. "This isn't charity. This is me choosing to make a difference while I still can. And I choose you and Emma, because I believe in the kind of future you're building for her." Tears streamed down Daniel's face before he could stop them. For the first time in years, the weight on his shoulders felt lighter. In the days that followed, Daniel used the money carefully, paying overdue bills, moving Emma into a safer neighborhood, and enrolling her in a better school. But more than the financial relief, it was the lesson that stayed with him. Sometimes, help comes from the places we least expect. Sometimes, the people who look like they need help the most are the ones holding the greatest gifts. Daniel continued working for Mrs. Whitmore, not because he had to anymore, but because he wanted to. She had become family and not by blood. but by choice. And years later, when Emma grew older and began chasing her own dreams, she often told people about the two heroes who shaped her life: her father, who never gave up, and the kind neighbor who reminded them that kindness can rewrite someone's story.